And so it's the day after Turkey Day. How you doing?
Yay. Hey, Dave. How are you?
I'm comatose. Thanks for asking. Still doing the meat coma thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The family got up and did the Friday after Thanksgiving tradition,
Okay.
pie for breakfast,
Nice.
stuffing and green beans for lunch with gravy, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, all good.
Do you guys make your own gravy? Do you buy it?
Katie makes the gravy from the turkey juice.
It's our tradition, probably for the last 15 years, and we always do a little slightly different gravy every year. So
Cool.
hey, but you and I aren't the only ones here, I think.
I think not. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friday Pie Day. I'm Scott Jernigan, editor-in-chief for Total Seminars. I've worked with Mike Myers for a couple of decades as his editor and co-author and one of the top instructors for the company. And with me, of course, today on a Friday always is my colleague,
Dave Rush. So in theory, senior instructor at Total Seminars, but we don't do much instruction these days. So I get to wear a lot of hats. I've finished up most of the project that Scott's given me for the year. So I'm getting ready to fire up on whatever new tasks are up and coming. I know that we have some exciting things coming up, which for me means drudgery of work, but for you, there are great things coming up along the way. And of course, on the side, I have this hobby of playing with Raspberry Pis, and that's extended itself into once every Friday, we get together for a couple hours and talk about Raspberry Pis and how they're useful in their own right, how they can be used in extending our studies and training for CompTIA certifications and any other kind of techno certifications that are computer involved.
Right. So we're doing these regular AMAs or Q&As with either Mike Myers or me or Dave or some combination thereof. Just for the, wow, okay, switched out. I was like, whoa.
Sorry, we were still doing intros. I just thought I'd throw this up. I figured you'd segue. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. We're doing this for people stuck at home like we are and studying for primarily CompTIA certifications. That's our primary thing, but we can answer questions on just about anything. Between the two of us, Dave and I have a lot of experience in tech. So we'll stick primarily with IT fundamentals, A+, Net+, Security+, but we can go far afield. We both have interests that go beyond as well. So ask us questions and we'll give you answers. And if we don't have the answer, we'll write it down and either send it to Mike to have him tackle it on Monday, or we'll tackle it next Friday. So here's our contact information. Dave is daver@totalsem.com, or his personal email, drushtx@yahoo.com. Don't email both, just one or the other. If you're a gamer, Dave is on Steam at drushtx. And I'm Scott Jernigan, as I mentioned, scottj@totalsem.com. My Steam account is Scarheart. I'm mainly playing Crusader Kings 3 and still playing Civilization 6 these days. So, jump in. You can also
get 3 on sale today for $20. And I don't have Borderlands 3, so I will be buying today.
Oh, you never got Borderlands 3?
I
paid full price, man. Full price, like the day it came out. And it's fun.
I want to play old, obsolete games.
Excellent.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking at, here, let's tell them what they've won today.
The special for this week is an extra special.
Yeah.
Something like that. And let me post it in the chat. Come on. Why we're not competent.
That's right. In the meantime, I'll fill this in while you're doing that. So everybody's gotten kind of used to the same special, but Scott and the marketing department worked up a deal that if Scott did something for them, they would sweeten up the deal for you. And they did. So this week, and so far this week only, 60, not 50% off, but 60% off A+, Net+, Total Tester bundles. I guess we'll call that the Black Friday week, right? Oh my gosh, I did a mic. I scratched my nose. Sorry. I won't do it again, probably. And Total Tester and Sims bundles and Sec Plus Total Tester. The date, the code is the date as of Monday. It was 11/23/2020 in US parlance. So November 23rd, 2020 at checkout at Total Sims, good through Sunday. And as always, if you are a teacher and you've got an ongoing class right now, you're getting ready to fire up another one with next semester, please contact Kathy Yale, Kathy Y at totalsim.com. She has just blown the doors out with things for you at prices that you can't measure, because zero is not a measurable quantity, right? Yeah, I know, except in certain instances. But if you're a teacher and you got a live class going or about to go, please contact us. We've got help for you. And
awesome.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us today. We're about set. No, actually, so this is the day after Thanksgiving in the U.S. I see a lot of folks here from the U.S. I see a lot of folks outside the U.S. who've already joined us. It looks like it's the usual size crowd for this kind of a beginning. So can't tell you how much we appreciate your participating with us today. We were kind of talking about earlier that says, hey, if everybody bails, we'll bail early too, but it sure doesn't look like it at this point. And we got a really fun show this week. I see this request all the time on Mike's AMA. People don't throw it out here so much because we tend to be a little more Raspberry Pi focused, but there's lots of folks who are always posting on Mike's AMA that they want to talk about some of the tools that are necessary for pen testing and CYSA and CCNA and things that aren't necessarily CompTIA focused, and even a little bit CompTIA focused. We're going to talk about some stuff that's in Net Plus a little bit, in Security Plus a little bit more. And in specific, today's topic du jour is using, and we've already talked about, but I'll fill this back in, installing Nmap. So it's a great hunter, seeker, information gatherer utility that can be used like a hammer in a blunt force fashion that says, I don't care if anybody sees me doing a scan, I'll just do it. Or there are stealthier modes, and it's really cool. And we're going to warn you now, and then we're going to warn you again later. With great power comes great responsibility. Do not use this blithely. Use this with seriousness, and recognize that if you use it inappropriately, serious consequences can befall you. And you may find yourself with anything from a slap on the wrist to time in federal prison. So use with great care and caution and in an authorized fashion. Do whatever you want in your own house. That's what I'm going to do.
So for those of you that haven't played in this Friday show, I'm running two screens and watching the chat in live time in case spammers pop or something like that. And then we have our regular screen with the questions kind of statically, slowly scrolling as we get to your questions. So Dave is, he's talking about the seriousness of Nmap, and I'm cracking up because Telebit's throwing jokes out, and I'm reading them on the fly. So I'm not laughing at Dave. I'm just laughing. So there you go.
I'm going to scan over some of these older ones. Elbow, I cannot believe you turned up 2.5 hours early. Yimpin' yiminy. So I noticed it a half an hour early when I check in. So if you want to get in that early before us, knock yourself out, but there's nobody there to talk to you. We're busy people. Hey, you're 4, you 4.
And Andre, I actually have literally 4 screens on my desk right now. So, huh?
You went to 4.
Yeah. I'm just looking at 2. That's all.
Okay.
Because I have to turn, and then you'd be looking at my ear,
Got it. I was thinking you had 3, but okay.
Well, and my laptop. That's the 4th.
Got it.
Yeah. Because, how many computers can a man have and use at the same time? I ask you.
Is there truly a physical answer to that? Is there a limit? Goodness gracious, what a conversation that started out that I'm not. Oh, hey, Tulawit, 144, I am with you. There are foods that people eat that you have to look back in history and say, oh my gosh, who thought this was a good idea? Well, we are starving to death. We're probably going to die. Let's try to eat that. And, if we live, it works out. And if we don't, all we did was rush the process a little bit. I have a huge list of foods like that. It starts with oysters.
Oysters are great.
Snails.
Snails are delicious.
Mm-hmm.
especially with a nice butter sauce.
Yeah, right. If you get enough butter and garlic and you can't taste the snail anymore, you're good to go.
I just pick up the regular snails off the ground,
Yeah.
saute them on a stick.
I would, but I'm not gaining anyway. I'm not losing any, so I still can't catch the stupid little things. Hello, Deepak. Nice to see you. And Andre, congratulations on that fix, Andre. Saw you over on Discord with the fix. And so let's talk about Discord. It looks like most of you guys are regulars here, but just in case we've got a new voice or a new face in here, a gentleman named Jose Braden set up an unofficial Total Sem Drama AMA Discord channel that has a lot of participation, and Scott and I and Mike sometimes pop in. It can be anytime during day or night. I'm working all the time here in front of my desk, and when I'm bored, I go and, look in, see what's going on. And we try to make a good effort, at least one of us, and usually two or three, to pop in for a little while after these things where we can get a little more hair down, a little more politically incorrect, and have a bit of fun. So Scott's posted that, and hope to see you over in Discord at the end. I'm going to Discord after this for about a half an hour or so, and then I've got to make a run to the very, very, very opposite side of town, 22 hours away, and pick up some gear.
Excellent.
Sorry, reading questions. Passing 51.
So the burning news, of course, it is Black Friday, which is the biggest sale day in the US. And it also happens to be the first, if I can remember right, Steam Autumn Sale.
Wow, I never thought about that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's it. I just opened up Steam and it's like half my wish list is on sale.
Nice.
And like you, Brendan, I can't pass up a sale. It's all good.
Passing 154, got nothing but inter-conversations. Deepak says to Scott, I wanted both Hazard and Courtois. I like that. Stay at Chelsea. Let him stay at Chelsea.
He went to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Because if you can't, you should.
So Deepak has there was a lot more after Deepak. It looks like he's changed to Deepak Pun. So, okay. You'll still be Deepak for me. Cleaning out closet today, says Andre. Don't know. I had so much junk. Threw it in the garbage, and nice to get tidy again. Yeah, we do that always just before Thanksgiving, so there's room for family.
So we've got Brad Taylor. Hi there. Brendan S.
Hey, Brad.
And Brendan, referencing the journey references are rolling, so you might as well just talk about it.
Yeah, Holowit, don't stop believing in homemade gravy. Come on, that's thin, buddy. Thin homemade gravy. Excellent. I was reading your mind, Brendan. I love that you use that same icon. I guess I do too, here and on Discord. And turkey. Yeah, so we do a different kind of turkey almost every year. The last 2 years we did turducken, and because we had to. But this year I tried something totally different. It's the first year that I didn't make my turkey. I bought a pre-cooked turkey and heated it just because it's provided by a local restaurant chain, and they're kind of a specialty. So it's Popeye's Chicken. It's a fast food joint, but they've got a pre-prepped Cajun seasoned turkey that was a knockout. Oh my gosh. It's a shame I can't do it again next year because we got to do something different next year, but that was fun. Greetings, Dr. Quinn. Haven't seen you in a while. You were here shortly last time, but I don't think I've noticed you on mics lately. So wait, next year we'll escape. I'm afraid what's coming up here, open arms.
You can ask
one good thing about a Journey shirt, right? There is so many titles to work from and so many lines. And that's why I've been holding it for so long.
So Deepak's, that's his real name, and it's pronounced Poon.
Okay. Pun it is. Sorry, there was a word I was trying to think of. Originalist is kind of along the lines, but phonetic. There you go. I'm a phoneticist. So here in the U.S., that would okay. Oh, so does that mean at 2:05, where Tullowit talks to Elbow, is he going to keep the Poon count?
Ha ha ha! Wow, that's pretty good, Dave.
Thanks, man. I'm in it. All right. Well, let me know when you guys get tuckered out of all these. That's cool things to talk about. Oh God, Tullowit, I'm going to ban you for the love and touch and squeezing ref.
So Ann Kit, hi. And Ann Kit posted the fire stuff when you announced the topic for the day. So apparently excited about Nmap, which is cool.
I know I am. Well, I've had a lot of fun this week learning a lot more about it, and I've barely scratched the surface. It's a deep, deep program. Oh, yeah. You know what? Elbow, just eat a later breakfast, and then you can do the whole lunch period with us. Scott, you forgot to put the 443 filter on.
True.
You can post anything you want, but 443 will not come through. Absolutely. Therefore, there are certain things that were not designed to be eaten: oysters, clams, cockles, almost anything with a shell except crab and lobster. Even then, somebody looked in the ocean and said, "We should eat that." Really? I don't think so. Let's feed it to the people we captured and see what happens to them. Walter White reference, Ankit? Nice.
So where are you?
Sorry, I should have given you time. 2:10. Alice is here. Nice to hear from you, see from you. It was great seeing you on camera. What, Friday? Yeah, Friday. That was great. I always think of Walter Winchell when I think of Walter White for no good reason. Either you're making meth or you're making news, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you, Andre. Same with sushi. Even though it's dead, sushi should be used to catch something big enough that you're willing to cook and eat. That's just another word for bait.
Yeah, see, this is Dave is the only heathen in our office that doesn't eat sushi. All the rest of us eat it like at least once a week.
That's effectively true.
Yeah.
Steam sale, yeah. Be right back. Tullowit, Elbow and Tullowit are not going to lunch. They're going over to Steam. Very good.
So 212 Connor asked, who's in my house in my house in the background? That would be my college-age son who's stuck here at home because his campus got shut down, and my spouse is also wandering around in the background, and then there's a really old dog that might make an appearance at some point. So there you go. All expected intruders.
I'm looking at Deepak at 213 telling the story of licking cyanide.
Yeah, that one cracked me up.
Yeah, right. Nobody can describe what cyanide tastes like, and yet they do. I think it's almonds, right? Roasted almonds or something like that, they say. So somebody must have had just a little bit and said, almonds. Okay, that explains it, Brendan. At 214.
Yeah.
The Black Mage. I did. Oh yeah, your smoked turkey. Probably better discussed elsewhere, but hey, no, that's awesome. On the Traeger, okay. The Traeger's a big name in pellet smokers these days.
Okay, I didn't know what that was.
Okay. But the gravy that I made from it was even better. Oh yeah, smoky gravy. Yeah, I'll do a gravy if I do a brisket. We get the super insane concentrated droppings, drippings, perhaps. Second. No, no, thanks. By all means. So my kid is also home from school now, and
Right. Cool.
is learning the protocol here.
Walking in, hey, Dad, what's going on?
Exactly.
Oh, I'm actually talking with my friends on the internet.
Oh, come on. Tell you're killing me. Passing 218, just realized it's super easy to install Nmap on my map using Homebrew.
Mac.
Install Nmap. That's it.
On his Mac.
Yes. Yeah, because that comes one post later. But I like that on your map. That's kind of cool. Not a D. Greetings, not a D. Anyone tried to run Windows on Raspberry Pi 4 headless without a dedicated monitor through RDP? I haven't, but I've seen people report some degree of success, but not fully. Remember, Win 10, yeah, let's rephrase that. So normal Win 10, of course, can't run on a Raspberry Pi because it's designed to run on an x86 AMD platform. Then they made a Win IoT version. It was a special version of Windows just for Raspberry Pi. And all it did was enabled support of IoT devices and IoT type communications. But the Surface, which one? 3, Scott? One of the Microsoft Surface models is ARM based, and they've created a version of Windows for that. And it's the same R essentials as on RPi. So there are people who have made, taken that version of Windows and done a little bit of surgery on it. It's not legal, it's not recommended, but they've done some surgery and got it kind of functioning on Raspberry Pi. But you got to remember, it's such a big operating system. It just, Pi is not designed to have the kind of speed. It, up until fairly recently, didn't have the RAM to pull that off.
Right.
So it's a fun experiment, but not a practical thing yet. Yeah, so yeah, there is a regular version for ARM. For, I think it's Surface 3 or Surface 4. Andre, you always retracting your message before I get a chance to read them. Oh, because he reposted a fresh one at 2:20. Why would you eat raw fish with rice and seaweed when you can eat nice fried fish or just the fish without the rice and seaweed? Darn right. And a wasabi on anything, Tulowitz, fair game. I have a jar of brined jalapenos and, of course, a lot of turkey left over from yesterday. And I've been scratching my beard trying to figure out how I can get those two married. Amy makes, my missus, turkey enchiladas every year, the week after Thanksgiving. And obviously we'll get some jalapenos in there, but I'm envisioning a more pure fusion. I don't know what it is.
Very Texas thing to do.
I only eat raw herring. Man, someday when we're not talking about this stuff, my pleasure, Nada, I'll tell my herring story from my visit up to your neck of the woods, across the waters a bit over into Stockholm and thereabouts. And the mini fjords they have there. Fresh, raw ahi is a good thing. Yeah, after you put it in the pan and sear it. All right, well, I'm going to pop over to notes. Things are slow in here question-wise, and talk about a couple of interesting things that have occurred over the week. The notes, these are over here. You have to go to the top where it says news.
So we'll pick up the questions at 2:23.
Yes, highlighted there. But that never seems to matter when it super scrolls. Okay, so this isn't new, but it's advancing. So this is kind of cool. Take a Raspberry Pi. Have I got one here that I can whip open real quick? Sure. This is an old one. This is a Raspberry Pi 2, but it'll illustrate my point just fine. So the cool thing about a Raspberry Pi is it's a self-contained computer, right? Everything that you need is here. the main CPU, the support chips. I know you can't see it, but you get the general idea. There's a little support chip in front of this thing. And the job of that support chip is to interface between the main CPU and all of the other input output peripherals and attachments. So we've got USB ports and Ethernet ports and video and camera and other things, the GPIO ports, and there's another control thing down here. So it's cool, it's great, it's self-contained, it's what you and I use every day. However, what if you're a company and you want to integrate a Raspberry Pi into your product? You don't want this full-blown thing with all kinds of elements that you don't need, right? You don't need all 40 GPIO pins. You might not need a video interface. Maybe your product already has that built in. Well, just for you, the nice folks at Raspberry Pi have another offering, and it's called the Compute Module, CM. And every time they come out with a new version of Raspberry Pi, they come out with a new version of CM. So this was a Raspberry Pi 2, there was a CM2. Raspberry Pi 3, CM3, and of course, today, there's a CM4 out there. And there's a couple of different versions of them. They have different quantities of built-in, let's call it flash memory. It's a little more sophisticated than that, but close enough. So, all right, you're a manufacturer, you're envisioning that you want to buy 10,000 of these things to go into some products that you're developing. Well, what you need then is a board that this compute module can plug into, tap into the wires that your product needs, and brought out to appropriate connectors on that board. And that board is called an I/O board. And there are lots of contract manufacturers out there who do this for companies. And some of those same manufacturers say, you know what, I'll bet that we can come up with an I/O board that's got a, I don't know, a set of really common things that lots and lots of people would want, and we could just sell this thing as a bare bones to not a specific company. Cool. So I/O boards exist for compute modules. Next, one of the pieces of magic that came out with the Raspberry Pi 4 is the connection between the main CPU and that interface chip is a PCIe lane. And it's a real native, honest to goodness PCIe lane. If you could tap into that, you could do with it whatever you would do with it on a PC, for instance, like send it straight to an NVMe SSD, or send it straight to a video. What are you shaking your head about? We're not that far ahead. You can't be cracking this up. Or send it to a high-end video card that uses NVMe, uses PCIe. Well, let me show you the latest development in this thing. We go to here, we go to here, and there it is. Oops, kind of there it is. There it is. Now let me look at my screen so I can see if I see. Okay, good enough. I can see that. So this is an I/O board. You can barely see it, but right here is the connector where the compute module goes. And this board is really full functioning. It's got the whole 2 HDMIs, only 2 of the USBs, but you get the idea. I'm not going to go through all over these things, but this board was designed to expose the PCIe line. And so a developer, this is real. It's not fully working yet, but the electronics are working. There's 2 more steps to make this thing work. You've got to get power for this card. This particular card draws about 60 watts, and the power supply for the I/O board provides about 15 at max. So you got to have extra power for this thing. We have to initialize the card yet. And then of course you need a driver for it built into the operating system or built into programs. But holy Hannah, I'm sorry, this is just awesome and is going to tie into my next thing really well. So I just thought you'd find that cool. I know I did. I was stunned when that picture came across my usual feeds.
That's cool.
That is beyond cool, man. I just love that. So we take that and we couple that with the next piece of news, and things start to get really fun. A few, golly, coming up on months ago now, we had a guest visitor, Dr. Evan Upton, the developer of the Raspberry Pi, and he took your questions and our questions, and I threw out a question to him because it's of a particular interest to me, and I didn't know it. It was also his specialty focus and one of his particular interests. And he gave us an answer that I'm still studying to this day. I don't understand it. It was so technical and so cool. But in short, Dr. Upton's early expertise was in 3D video systems. So he was working on chips that would do 3D presentation and so forth. And he carried that forward as a development project into the Raspberry Pi organization, where they have been working or had been working for quite some time on a product called Vulkan with a K. Back in October, Vulkan was merged with Mesa, which is another organization in technology that drives video standards. And Mesa accepted this as a product that they would continue to develop and standardize. And when they first did the merge, you have to go through some conformance test. And quite literally, there are over 100,000 tests that a video driver and card and everything else has to pass before it qualifies as compliant. And out the door, they had already done enough development that when Mesa merged with these guys or vice versa, they were 90,000 test compliant. Well, wow. Yeah, 3 days ago, they are 100,000 tests compliant. So it's ready for the next phase. And of course, lots of people are already working on this, and that's integrating it as a standardized API into the OS. So let me show you, oh man, let me show you what this implies. Come here, you. So what I'm about to show you is real.
More real?
Even more real than this. Let me shrink this down so I can move it. It is shrunk down. There it goes. So this is a Raspberry Pi. This is our Pi OS. And here is that Doom? Whatever it is, it's the same gorgeous 3D graphics that we're getting used to seeing on Steam games and all the products that are released within there. So no, it's not snappy yet. And that's where the work is developing. But holy Hannah, again, man, with Vulkan and with this, we're going to be able to do serious, legitimate gaming on Raspberry Pi someday. But it's happening so much faster than anybody might have envisioned. Certainly myself, anyways. Maybe
that's very cool.
Yeah, maybe Dr. Upton already knew in-house and had a vision. But Mike had asked him a question, something about, oh, that was Quake, by the way. That wasn't Doom. Mike had asked him a question about a particularly powerful game, and Dr. Upton gave him absolutely, thinking there's no way I'll ever be held to this. It'll be years. But now somebody may be able to hold him to it. 2 more pieces of news.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned Doom, and Doom Eternal is on sale for 50% off right now.
I saw that. I'll be having a new copy of Doom. My only copy of it right now is at the office. I was at the office a couple of days ago and looked to see if my computer was still running and I could access it remotely. And hey, look, I still got Doom on here. Not original Doom. All right, switching over to here.
Doom for DOS.
Boy, why did DOS? I ran across something where DOS was important this week. All right, who cares? If you're playing with a Pi-hole, I had a problem with a Pi-hole that I'm going to tell you about in a minute, but in reading the various Pi-hole support forums, I got a really interesting little tidbit of info. I have a particular website that I've told you about when I did Pi-hole days. I don't have it written down here in front of me, can't remember it, but it's a Pi-hole testing site. So, and it tests all kinds of other ad blockers. You go here and you go to their various links, and it will, if ads are blocked, then this is working. If ads aren't blocked, you're not working. Well, somebody posted the best real world test site out there. I've never been there. I've heard of this place. Probably many of you have been there. Slickdeals.com. So I turned my Pi-hole off and went over to slickdeals.com, and you just get inundated with ads. And then I turned Pi-hole on, and they're all gone. So
Cool.
what a cool little test. Just go to that site.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right. Do I want to tell this story? How are we doing here? 35. Yes, I do. Let's make it really short. Is that possible for me? Nah. I have slow, relatively speaking, internet service here. It's fast enough to do everything I want to do. It's 90 megabits down and 5 or 7 up. I don't do a lot of uploading, so I don't care. And the 70 megabit, 90 megabit down is acceptable. But my ISP offered me a good deal. And so I can have gigabit down and 70 megabit up for $5 more than I'm paying. Who can say no to that, right? So I said yes. And we went in on Saturday and took my old modem in, and they handed me this new modem, and it terrified me because I hadn't seen it. I didn't know how to configure it in order to make sure that everything in the house worked the way that I wanted to.
Right.
So I took it back. And so I actually declined it. And then they went clickety, clickety, click and said, okay, your account is set back up to what it was before you canceled this upgrade. What could go wrong, right? Especially with Comcast.
Comcast is the local cable company.
Yeah, man, that's so local, but okay. So I came home, plugged in the old modem, and everything kind of seemed to work. So, okay, maybe they got it right. Later that day, I did a regular weekly update on my Pi-hole. Something that takes about 22 seconds and no problems afterward, cool beans. But the next day, the house burned down, electronically speaking. 3 to 10 times an hour, some HTTPS site, Tulowit, what's that port number, would not connect. I'd get certificate errors, I'd get just horror. And I went through all the troubleshooting steps that you possibly could. I rebooted Comcast router, I turned off the Pi and bypassed it, which by the way, totally worked. That was disappointing. Turned it back on, the Pi-hole, turned it back on, and the problem would reappear. And it was weird. It appeared on everybody's devices, everybody's phones, everybody's computers, everything. And it wasn't consistent. You never knew when it was going to happen or what was going to happen. It was just awful. So step by step, I tried things. I did everything according to the good troubleshooting manual. Disable this, test everything. And since it was all random and random timing, you didn't know how long you had to wait for something to work. And all the different things that I tried, some of them worked instantly for a while. Very low on a timing. And then the problem would come back. So for instance, if I got a page that won't load, I would just keep that same tab open and go browse to another page and then come back to that one. And it would work. Clear the browser cache, clear the DNS cache on the Pi-hole. But nothing was a permanent fix. So tearing hair out, wrote down all my symptoms, everything that I'd done to try, everything that worked, everything that didn't. And I posted a help me request on the Pi-hole subreddit, which was, and now I got 40,000 users on that subreddit. So I got an army of people lined up to help. 2 responses. One from a user who said, hey, post a screenshot of one of them failures. Okay, I can do that. And then another one who is the one of the forum moderators, who's also an employee over at piehole.org. And he said a lot of things that I knew. He said, you know, there's no way this could, should, would be a Pi problem. because it's certificate related. I know that. He said, but he offered one suggestion that I hadn't thought of. There's 11 choices of DNS servers that you can have your Pi-hole refer to. I was using Cloudflare. And I know there's no problem with Cloudflare because otherwise people would have reported this all over the world. But he said, just pick another one. So I picked another one, opened DNS, tried it for an hour, no problems. Tried it for 3 hours, no problems. Tried it for 24 hours, no problem. So I got the problem solved. My plan now is to operate for about 2 weeks like this, and then go back and try Cloudflare and see if there was anything, if it works still, because it's worked for as long as I've had it in. But I found that whole exercise kind of interesting. And when I was all done, and whenever you're done troubleshooting any kind of a problem, we always say the last step is to document it. Well, okay, I kind of did that along the way, so it's well documented. But it strikes me that in the real world, there might be one other real world step. Scott does this with us all the time. After a project is completed, we go and debrief the project. We find out what worked. We find out what didn't work, and we make plans for the next time. So I did that same thing here, sort of introspectively, and asked myself then, are there any lessons to be learned here? Let me share this paragraph with you. Probably lots. Maybe it's applied troubleshooting theory, works appropriately. Maybe it's just pure tenacity. I had to make it work because the problem was so frustrating. Maybe I was just desperate to make it work between myself and the cadre of 2 other users on the subreddit, rather than have to call Comcast technical support. The only other option would be to abandon the Pi-hole altogether and lose its benefits. That wasn't an option. So I think there is one real takeaway. Don't be ashamed to escalate when needed. I ran out of expertise. I went to the next level expert. If I were a tech support individual in a company, I'd go to my supervisor. Hey, I can't figure this one out. Or I'd go to Google and try to research it. But escalation is useful, and I felt no shame in reaching out to people with more expertise than me.
Excellent.
There's fireside story of the week.
Okay, and that was a heartwarming story, Dave. Thank you.
Also, almost like petting a new puppy, isn't it?
It really is. Until it fiddles.
Let's touch up on some questions, and then we'll play Nmap.
All right, sounds good.
223, somewhere back there.
Yep, 223.
Hey, there it is. Anything good happen? You usually keep good track of this stuff.
U4 Raymond asks,
yeah, right there.
23, how is the layer 7 function that some firewalls have any use, since surely most traffic is encrypted, at least at the payload level?
Well, okay, so interesting possibilities there. Layer 7 is primarily about content. I'm going to agree with you there. And there is certainly a lot of content that's encrypted, and most of the layer 7 firewalls that you and I, at the level that we live and work in, wouldn't encounter. There are boxes out there that are smarter than us and can be provided with certificates and do that. But the bottom line is you're right, and maybe there's 2 bottom lines. There isn't a ton of layer 7 networking firewalling out there, but where it exists, you're going to find it in places like unsecure is the word we use. Unsecure utilities, like unsecure email. If you're using Outlook and it's not signatured or certificated, then we can look in email text for words. That happens all the time, especially on outbound in security-minded companies. They don't want to see lots of keywords that are associated with anything that they develop in-house, like a code word for an upcoming new product or things like that. That stuff gets filtered. Anything that's clear text can obviously get filtered. Images. Here you're right, though. Again, if you're not talking about a very sophisticated appliance that has the ability to deal with encrypted, it's not a real practical kind of iteration. but I doubt that most, except for the highest security organizations, are doing layer 7. They're living at layer 4 and down. What do you think, Scott?
I agree.
Okay.
But the good firewalls, like the next generation firewalls, operate at multiple levels, including layer 7 things. But yeah.
Sure.
So Sunny and Mango popped in at 229. Hi. Nerds Getting Nerd. That's always fun. There were a couple of other questions that popped
Hey,
up.
Sunny and Mango. I'm not sure if we've seen you over on the Discord channel. Join us afterward. Scott's posted the link up just a little bit higher than here, and he'll probably throw it up again sometime. So we're looking to increase membership over there. We have a lot more fun talking about a wider variety of topics, including the price of ahi tuna. Oh man, I can see it in your eyes. I would have done in your eyes. I would have saved that reference for your eyes.
Dr. Quinn.
For RPI. So they exist, and it's a really easy thing. You don't have to get a specific thing. A MIDI keyboard. There are MIDI hats and MIDI adapters, and you can even set up, if you're really techno gobbledygook deep, set up the GPIOs to support MIDI natively. But it's a heck of a lot easier just to get a MIDI interface. You can get them with USB, you can get hats, and you're off and cooking. I have been on the hunt, and I just missed one not long ago for the nano nano controller and nano keyboard from Korg to do a project with you guys on that. It's a knockout.
So 231, Dr. Quinn asks, and this is very relevant for a Friday Pi Day. In case I missed it, no one had asked it. Do the folks at Raspberry Pi make their own CPUs, or do they get it made for them, and by whom?
Okay, so this is kind of a neat thing. No, they don't make their own. They effectively spec them. So what you've got is a company out there that designs CPUs. They make design elements that could, should, would go in a CPU. And the name of that company is ARM, capital A, small RM. It's not ARM, and it doesn't stand for anything. And then other companies working through intermediaries and manufacturers say, hey, I want an ARM CPU, and I want it to have these features. I want it to have 4 cores, and I want it to have video compression and a PCIe lane. And then they go to a manufacturer that usually has a relationship with ARM, and the 3 of them get together and they design exactly what the customer wants. And then the manufacturing company, in this instance, you may recognize the name Broadcom. Broadcom says, okay, we'll build that for you on spec. Broadcom also specs their own processors and markets them, and they work with plenty of other end suppliers. Oh, say for instance, cell phone manufacturers. You're going to find Broadcom ARMs and tablets, Broadcom CPUs that are ARM based in lots and lots and lots and lots of devices, including embedded devices. Did you get a chance to see that, Scott? I missed that. It disappeared just as I went down to read it. So yeah, so ARM creates the design elements. Broadcom and the end user, the end company, get together, all of them, and sub-design or assemble or whatever, and then Broadcom makes it. And Broadcom's not the only manufacturer for ARM chips. There are plenty of others. The really fascinating thing, let's call it that, that happened lately is 3 months ago, NVIDIA bought or merged with, depending on how your business interpretation is, ARM. And everybody's waiting to see what the impact of that is. On the high end possible hopes, we think that could likely put NVIDIA cores in ARM processors and make powerful gaming or powerful video readily available in ARM chips. And who knows what Pi will do with this. I asked Dr. Upton about that 2 months ago, and he's same thing, waiting to see what happens. And of course, they're talking rapidly. I saw, hope that helps. Is Steam for Pi a thing? Steam for Linux is a thing. And there are some Steam games that have been ported to Pi, like Minecraft. That's Steam, right? Not sure. Somebody look into that. But no, not yet. They're having a very slow time integrating just regular old Linux, but they do it. And there's more and more every day. 2 new articles popped up this week on how they expose more of their source code. So expect more development in that direction. Sooner or later, somebody will jump on Pi versions.
Andre posted just a second before you asked that question. He apparently had gone looking for stuff on Steam on the Pi, and what he found was that you can use a Pi, but it will be kind of a remote desktop since you need a host PC on your cabled network. Steam runs on the PC, Pi then controls it. So that's another option as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting way.
And so, but an even better one though is Elbow's answer right after, is Steam for Pi a thing? And he answered, tell it. That's why you poke holes in the crust before baking.
Sorry, best pun of the day so far. I'll take that all day. I'm trying to assemble 243 U4 Raymond.
243.
234. I saw someone running Doom on a pregnancy stick. Oh, okay. Don't even ask what I had in my head. It wasn't bad. It was just weird.
So Simon Edling shows up at 2:35. Hi, Simon. Good to see you.
We are well, Simon. Thanks. And thanks for the heart.
And Telowit answered very quickly when you asked about HTTP. Got it right.
Wow. What a knockout. 8080, not a D. You remember when 8080 used to really matter a lot? We always used that for proxy servers.
Yeah.
Yes, you won. You get to pour your smoke gravy over leftovers. Yeah, certificate errors definitely up there with printer issues. I still don't know what the problem is, but I don't care. I got a solution. So
right, and that's important.
Who's crying now? I'm still missing the one that you have to play at the end of every bat mitzvah, wedding reception, birthday party, but it'll get there.
Yep.
Oh, Andre, so there's an air supply pun there, Andre. A lifetime supply of breathable air.
I like it.
Hawaii. When they're not spewing ash and sulfur.
Right.
That stuff will probably kill Corona. Hawaii is probably the safest place ever during an eruption. I love my mom. She's not with us anymore, but when she was, I loved her. And I went to the Middle East for a couple of years on a contract job flying. And I came home at one time and stopped in for a visit, and she's not highly scientific or technical. And she asked me one time, as I described how barren it was and sand, where do I get oxygen from there? How do I breathe? Well, Mom, it's okay. There's a whole planet full, and there's wind. When on windy days, we all go outside of our apartments and inhale it all. Oh, we picked up a good bit. That's right. We're still on time here. We'll run this for another 6 minutes, and then I'll do Nmap, which should take about a half an hour or so, maybe 40 minutes, and then another 20 minutes to close it all down. So, oh, faithfully yours. Okay, Elbow goes for Thanksgiving food lunch. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, the Hello, it's on a roll, I must say.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of titles to work from. Thank you, U4. I noticed that, U4. I wasn't going to point it out to him. He can see himself. He's got feedback on one of his many monitors. You got the Superman curl here thing.
Yeah, it's like I was rushing, putting up Christmas lights and ran out of time. So jumped in the shower very quickly, just like, whoa, and rushed to the computer. I didn't actually, I mean, once it's stuck here, it's stuck here.
Yeah, no hope, huh?
Yeah,
those microcorgs are really impressive. And if I were willing to pay full price, I'd have them here in front of me, but I'm not. I'm just a cheap guy. I hunt forever on Craigslist all over the country for stuff like that. Found something. You can use a Pi, but it's remote. Yeah, okay, you answered that. If you add an AMD K8 to the Pi, then why would you want a Pi? Arm and Hammer. Oh.
Yeah, I know you went there. And Deepak asked a question at 2:48. On my Mac, I can't visit some websites. The site says it's not on the approved list in screen time. What's happening? There's an option to add the site to screen time, but never had this issue before.
Not knowing what screen time is or much about Macs, I defer.
Yeah, I have to punt.
Somebody on here knows the answer and will provide.
Yeah, I do not know the answer to that.
Yeah, sorry about that, Deepak. My pleasure, Dr. Quinn.
But I will write the question down and ask Michael, who definitely will know the answer.
He will. Yeah, in fact, if you post it on the back channel, it'll probably come up, or invite him up.
That's true.
Yeah, you had a good camera today.
Yeah, let me do that.
Cool.
So,
I'm going to make a note here while he's doing that. Stand by. It's quick. That's just weird. I always have a notepad up and running. I didn't, but it's fixed. Steam Pi, reading questions, passing 252. Vog. Okay.
Volcanic fog.
Yeah. And thank you for using my favorite term, portmanteau. Love that. We've talked about that before.
Mm-hmm.
I would think they inhaling sulfuric acid or fumes therefrom is bad, but drinking it straight, that's worse. I see what you got there. Oh, Deepak. I'm sure you mean guess not. Yeah, exactly right. Get a Windows machine when to do that. But the Arm & Hammer line, that's not bad.
That was pretty good. I cracked me up.
I already have 2 Win machines. Yeah, no more. Alice would say Linux machine. She would. Okay, well, we're caught up then. Questions through 257 on mine. Hey, I discovered something on mine the other day. Scott was talking to me on the back channel during one of Mike's AMAs about some questions and comments, and I couldn't see them. And as you may know, on this feed, you got an option of either top chat or live chat. And historically, I always get more of the questions on top than live, but that was an odd day. So I think it's possible that I may miss a comment or two by keeping it on top chat instead of live chat. So if I or Scott miss a question, you know, same as Mike's, post it again. We'll get there.
Right.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Nmap. Man, I love Nmap. Oh, and actually before that, I want to talk about one other thing. We do this every week just to sort of, I did this out of order, sorry, but it's cool. What we did last week, sort of a quick review, and what we're doing this week. So we'll combine. Yeah, decide if you want to, you know, just take that from the back channel feed, Scott, or if we can bring him on to talk about it.
Sounds like it's a pretty straightforward question or straightforward answer.
Okay, well, go ahead.
So Deepak, screen time is the sort of parental control, essentially, of the Mac. You can just turn it off, just completely. So what might have happened is Apple might have changed a setting in an update, and this just triggered on-screen time.
Right, Big Sur 14 just updated, what, a week or two ago?
Yeah. So I mean, and it's not like an instant everybody updates at the same time. It's kind of rolling updates. So sometimes you're, a week behind or whatever, the first people rolling it out. So yeah, just basically turn it off. Unless you want to be parentally controlled.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Michael, in the back channel.
Yep.
Where we been? Just want to review briefly what we did last week. We installed GIMP on a Raspberry Pi, and it turns out that doing so on a Raspberry Pi 4 is a pretty effective solution. It's not quite as snappy as doing it on a fast Windows machine, but on a moderate Windows machine, cool. The real slick part, I think, about GIMP, the GNU Image Manipulation Program, is it's a fairly sophisticated image manipulator out of the box. It's got lots of good tools, got lots of good features. No, it's not Photoshop and it's not Illustrator, but it's got a lot of very good tools that us day-to-day amateurs can use. And the greatest thing about it is there are so many plugins for it. And therein lies the downside, because there are 3 different platforms that it works on: Windows machines, Mac machines, Linux machines, and then sub-platform, Raspberry Pi's version of Linux on an ARM. The plugins may work a little differently. The good news is the plugins that are straight Python, they work the same on all of them. It's just Python code. It describes to the program a sub-program, a subroutine, if you will, on how to use it, and those are great. But other ones have executable programs, and they have to be written for the platform that you're working on. Fortunately for us, there is in the Raspberry Pi operating system repository a singular collection, a really big collection of great and the most popular tools that have been ported and ready to go. So all we had to do to install GIMP on a Raspberry Pi was, first of all, install GIMP, sudo apt install GIMP, done. And then we installed the 2 really cool and necessary elements to do the add-ons. There was the add-ons themselves, sudo apt install, check this out on the archive last week, I'm not going to put it up there, gimp-plugins-registry, and that adds all of the stuff, and a lot of it works, but the stuff that's pure Python based doesn't, until you do the step that I skipped last week and got fixed after about 5 minutes, sudo apt install gimp-python. So how long have you been speaking, Dave? Not very long, it would seem.
Too long, one of the 2.
Yeah, so it's just awesome. And that particular 2 follow-on installs, the GIMP plugins registry and GIMP Python, enables my favorite and most frequently used utility, heal selection, which to my mind is just the purest of magic. It makes things disappear, replaces it with very realistic background. I did one, did I do it then? Maybe I did it in here. I got a picture coming up of some kind of, oh man, I didn't do that. I'll show you. I did a heal that knocked me out. It was a Raspberry Pi with a gold medal sitting in the middle of it, and lots of little raspberries all around it. And I did a heal on that gold medal thinking, how it's never going to figure out raspberries. It's just going to put some pinkish mist in there. It made raspberries. It looks like a Raspberry Pi. It was awesome. So such a cool utility. All right. So that's what we did last week. We put GIMP on a Pi. And I think we even mentioned and showed it on a PC. Today, I'm looking at today as going back to our roots. When we started this stream system, its goal, it's a very initial goal, it's morphed over time, is let's use Raspberry Pi to facilitate learning CompTIA stuff.
Right.
How to make servers at home so that I can practice FTP commands that I have to know. How to have a Raspberry Pi as some kind of a server so that I can capture traffic between them and look at packets and frames with Wireshark. You can do it on a PC just as well, but so that's what we're doing today. We are going back to our roots and saying, let's take a program here that's got information that's useful to people who are studying for a variety of different CompTIA certifications and other external certifications. We're going to look at Nmap here. We're going to look at it from two flavors. One is the installation on a Raspberry Pi. It's just dead simple. And on a PC, it's dead simple. And there's even one more really cool thing for it. And on any other version of Linux. Nmap is a command line utility. That's a hard and straight fact. There's just no way around that. And for all of the classes and certifications that I'm aware of, you have to understand and use a lot of the command line switches. I have seen practice questions from various courses that go in two directions. One, which of the following are switches that you would use to accomplish some task that they describe in the question? And the other one, of course, there's always the reverse of that. Which of these wouldn't work to accomplish this task? And then I've seen questions that say, here's an Nmap command, Nmap space dash S capital T space dash capital F space dash lower T4. And then the question is, what does that thing do? And then you got to pick from the multiple choices. So you've got to be fairly familiar with this for pen testing, cybersecurity analyst, less so for Net Plus. In fact, all you got to do for Net Plus is be aware of what it is and what it does, and a little bit more of that kind of thing in Sec Plus. They don't expect you to know Nmap switches. So learning switches is important for some of these kinds of certifications. However, as a practical tool, especially if you're not familiar yet with Nmap switches, in the Windows environment, there used to be a company that created a graphical front end to Nmap. It was called ZenMap. And I heard Mike once say it's gone. Yeah, it might have been when he said it, but whatever the case is, the current situation is Nmap owns ZenMap now, and they provide it as a single integrated download. And that is just so cool. We're going to show you ZenMap today. You can use pull down menus and things like that, and it will generate an Nmap command with all of the switches on it. And then you run it and you can see the textual output that it would have generated if you run it from the command line. And it's got a graphical interface to show you the output. It is just magic. So that's what we're doing today.
All right. Sounds great.
That means I got to go down to how to install Nmap and do things like that.
Absolutely.
So we can do Nmap as far as the installation goes in a couple of different ways. It's available for Linux. It's available on the Raspberry Pi. It's baked into all versions of Kali. And of course, we've got Kali. We did that 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Kali for the Raspberry Pi. It's available on Windows. Kali is, and straight Nmap. So really cool. Let me just briefly mention, I'm not going to demo some of this stuff. There's no point in it. If you want to install Nmap and ZenMap, they come together now on Windows. All you got to do, did I do this? Yes. Oh, I got to navigate to it. I didn't make a slide for this.
Okay.
But that's all right. I have ways, top 10, Pi-hole. Let's do it over here. I got to set this up and stand by one moment. Okay, click there, move this over to here. And then let's fix this page from, okay, good. All my super secret information on Zoom. Hey, what did you just do there? Okay. Oh, such an idiot.
I wasn't going to say anything, Dave, but
yeah, it's, everybody knows.
Are you going to put anything on the screen?
I'm going to. Okay, there it is. Had to find it.
All right.
I do rehearse this stuff. Some of the things I just assume are so simple, I don't have to rehearse that. Foolish man.
Right. I never make that mistake.
And we all know how that comes out. It's happened to me twice in the last, this is our 18th showing of this game.
Really? Wow.
But who keeps track? All right. So if you want to install Nmap and ZenMap for Windows, you go to nmap.org/ZenMap. I can't zoom that any more than that. I'm sorry, you just have to live with it. And then you will see over here the download link on that page. So if you click a download, it takes you to nmap.org whack-download.html. And here we see you got the Windows binaries, and this is the one you want, the latest stable release self-installer. That's the one that I have. Those of you watching this on archive in the year 2024, this number will probably be higher by then, but that's what you want. So you download that, and then you just click on it and run it like any other downloadable executable program. Now, what's going to happen along the way is it's going to split into two different installs, one of which will become dependent on the other. So if you go to one of the two installation windows and the next button is grayed out, that's not the one you wanted. All you got to do is go to the other one. The next button will be highlighted there, and you can click it, and sooner or later it goes away, and then you go back to the other menu. Just accept all the defaults. There's nothing that's going to hurt your machine, and you're in business. And then to run it, let me show you how to run. I can't show you how to run. I can only show you it running. So I'll do that when I do the other thing, because you know, you got to bring up the whole screen. And thank you. I don't know if we can blame Microsoft or Nmap. Now, if you've got regular good old-fashioned Raspberry Pi operating system going and you want to install it, cool. You don't need Kali. It's a single one-shot standalone installation. Open up a terminal and type in sudo apt install nmap, or sudo apt-get install nmap. Same thing, and it runs. Now, this is the part that throws some people on the support forums. Usually when you install something into Raspberry Pi OS, let me bring one up here. We'll do this here. Yeah, I know you're not seeing it yet. Stand by. Shrink that.
I have faith in you.
It's the opposite. There we go. Okay, now we'll go to the share. Click, click, share. Okay, so usually when you install a new program, it appears here in the Raspberry menu. Might be in accessories or might be in preferences. Well, this is a command line utility. The only thing that normally pops up in here are graphical utilities. So what you've got to do after you install it is just run it manually from a terminal prompt. So if I just type in Nmap without any kind of parameters here. Oh, I deleted off of here so I could show you the install. It's a very quick install. Let's do it. Sudo apt install Nmap with more S's in the install. Couldn't get a lock on. Oh, I got Synoptic open. And off she goes. I'll stay here for 45 seconds if it takes longer than that. Okay, so that was the download portion of it. It's not very big. This is the install portion of it, 80%. And it's done. So we have Nmap now installed on here. And if I go over to here, I can look in each of these icons. They're generally alphabetically listed. Nothing in Office Suite. By the way, LibreOffice got updated this week. It's hasn't made it down into the Raspberry Pi forums, but wow, lots of cool new stuff. All right, take my word for it. It's not in there. So you just got to know to run it manually. And if I just run Nmap without any switches, it says, hey, you're going to need some kind of switches. So let's do one very quickly. How about I just do an Nmap and use and accept the defaults on one of the Pis running in my home here, 192.168.1.201. That's my Pi hole. So this does a fast scan on it, relatively speaking. You'll see when we do this on Kali, it happens quicker. This took 7.39 seconds, and he didn't do a full in-depth scan. He said, I scanned for very common things. So I see you're running an SSH server. Your port 22 is open, and so is 23 and 53 because I'm running Pi-hole DNS services. I got a web server on there, and this is the VNC program, 5900. So just a quick down and dirty. Now there's tons more switches, and we're going to explore them as we go. So that install is dead simple. You don't need Kali. But of course, we did install Kali 2 weeks ago. So let's go hit that server. Hey, it still works.
It's convenient.
Yeah, so let me share that. By the way, we installed Kali 2 weeks ago. A week later, they upgraded it. So I did the upgrade, and it's going to look a little different now probably than yours as a result. But there it is. Come here, you, clear. So Kali's kind of interesting. Let's close this out altogether. They did build into their menu the ability to get to Nmap. Now, all it does is opens up a terminal. So it's not particularly exciting or impressive. But over here, number 2, vulnerability analysis, there's Nmap. And when you click it, what it does is it opens up a terminal and it runs Nmap without any parameters. So you see all the switches. So if I run this same command from here that we did on the standard Raspberry Pi OS machine, Nmap, 192, 168, 1.201. 1.82 seconds. So a lot more optimized to run under Kali. Otherwise, same information. So be aware of the differences. And I could go demonstrate exactly the same thing, open up a command line in Windows and run Nmap and that IP address. And I didn't time it. I don't know how much longer it takes because I'm more interested in the graphical one on that one. But that's the core of getting Nmap installed or where you can access it, and then recognize that the usual way is to run it by Nmap and then some switches, let's say -F, we'll explain it, and any other switches that you want to do here, minus blah, 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 and follow it up with the IP address or IP addresses. You can do them in all kinds of different ways, lists, files, ranges, but we're just doing the one right now. So this is forcing a fast scan, which is actually exactly what it did earlier. That's the default. Oh man, and it even took less time. Why? Because some of that information is cached now. He knows that there's a host with that address. So cool, huh? Let me unshare, come back to head for a few minutes.
Very cool.
Yeah, all right, well, I'm done. Yeah, it's 1:15.
Said Dave, never.
Thank you. I'm going to turn all red now from choking.
So Tella had asked while you were looking at the upgrades and stuff, I'm assuming there's a script you can write to auto update stuff when you boot the Pi. Is that advisable? Like an autoexec.bat in the old
Yeah, if I were going to do that, I've considered that, and I got burned by it once. And so I think the answer is it might not be advisable, but it depends. But if I were going to do it, I would do it as what they call a cron job, sudo cron tab, CHRONTAB space -E. And that opens up the editor for the scheduled events. And scheduled events can be on seconds, on minutes, on hours, on days, on weeks, on months, or on certain conditions like boot ups. So I would set up a cron job maybe once every 2 weeks, first Monday, whatever, the second and fourth Monday of a month, something like that. and have it just run in a bash script, sudo apt update ampersand sudo apt -y upgrade, and twice a month it would do that. So here's where I got burned one time by that. I had built and had running for almost 6 months a Nextcloud. It's kind of like, Dropbox.
Mm-hmm.
And the web engine that I was running to access it updated, and it restored some of its configuration files to their defaults. And these were really hefty and challengingly calculated and created files. And I had to go through a couple of weeks to get them all recovered. So sadly, there may be a method that I'm not familiar with. Alex could chime in here. If I just want to update one particular package or the operating system, that probably exists. But I think there is a danger in certain applications in updating and upgrading them unless you know what the impact's going to be.
So another more direct Nmap discussion question popped as well from Andre, who said that when he runs, I'm assuming Nmap, that he gets something that says not shown 95 filtered ports.
Okay, so that's exactly what we saw in here. Let me reshare this with you.
Okay.
And I will show you what he's shown. In fact, this one shows 95. The other one shows 995. Share. Okay, so here's exactly what Andre saw. 95 closed ports. And when I did it on the other one, I didn't point it out. There was 995 closed ports. So the defaults say, here's how many I would normally do. But since you didn't specify anything above and beyond the defaults, I'm only going to search for 100 ports, 100 common ports, or less. Maybe I would normally do 100, but because of the switches that you used, I only did 5. And so that's why he's reminding us that, hey, there's others that I didn't do. And this is just a reminder, if you want to be more thorough, use some different switches. Don't accept just the defaults. Does that make sense?
It does. He actually mentioned that he needs to use the switch dash capital P lowercase n to see his Windows machine.
Okay, so dash P.
You're going to hit some of these other switches. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm going to cover some. So dash P is port. And after that, there's all kinds of ways you can do it. N for a number of ports, and there's a default value in there. You can say dash P space U, only show me UDP ports. You can do U:69. So I only want to see UDP port 69. You can do dash P space. Oh, hang on, I got to refresh my. Okay, that's happening. Dash T colon some port number. So yeah, and then there's a switch in here that will let us do a range of ports. And if you've got weeks on your hand, you can search every port from 1 to 65,535 on every host that you find. So start your machine and come back in a couple of days. And that's a cool thing to do. All right, I'm not sharing anything good. All right, let me go back to notes and then we'll.
Yeah.
Okay, so just kind of to cover up anything that I missed, and I've sort of dived deep into it or mid-leveled into it. What is Nmap? Well, it stands for Network Mapper. It's free, it's open source, it's a network scanner. Created, if we care, by Gordon Lyon. You can find that Lyon on the Wikipedia article. Its value is to discover hosts and services provided by that host. And it does this by sending a packet and analyzing the response. Now, here's the cool thing about it. When you send a packet like a ping packet to a host, or if you send a packet from an IP scanner, Mike likes angry IP address. I like IP scanner. I like advanced IP scanner. They both do things a little differently. Well, what you're going to find in the IP header and possibly the TCP header is some very standardized defaults. And that causes those responses to come back in such a way that it knows as much about you now as you know about it. Well, Nmapper changes the values of the fields in the IP and TCP headers that hides a lot of stuff or extracts a lot more information. So that's its really cool thing. And they add more coolness to that every year, because one of the things they do at the Black Hat convention every year is how to defeat being scanned by Nmap. So they discuss and address and create sort of firewalls against Nmappers. And then the Nmap folks say, fine, we'll work around that. It's a really neat thing.
Cool.
Yeah, I learned a lot this week. I've learned a lot about Nmap this week. So one of the things that it can do in gathering back information is a phrase that we started running into as end users maybe, and as technicians more so, and that's fingerprinting. Your computer does things when it goes places that leaves identifying information, like what kind of operating system you're using, what kind of browser you're using, and lots of other things that we're probably not aware of, services and service levels. Well, Nmap can fingerprint machines. It can call your machine and make it respond in as if it were contacting a web server. And then he says, oh, okay, I'm going to look in all of your IP headers and gather that information out of you. So very powerful, very dangerous. And here again, this is our second warning then. There are places that if you do this to them, you have committed a crime. So this is not something just to, I wonder what Google's servers have to say if I run it on here. You may just run afoul of federal law. Whenever you do anything over the internet, you're involving remote cross-state boundary lines. That gets the FBI involved. So don't do anything like this without full permission of the user that you're doing this. So fine, knock yourself out at home. As I said, I'm going to do everything here at home except two. I'm going to do 2 demos, and I'll explain why it's okay to do those 2 as we get there. But by and large, this stuff is intrusive, it's invasive, and it's powerful. All right, so that was the part I already dove into. I'm ahead on that. I covered that. After installing NPAS, you can run it from the terminal. To launch it from Kali, you go to menu number 2 in the vulnerability analysis map, showed that. And we can't do an Nmap class here. I'm going to do some interesting Nmap switches and commands. I went out on Udemy to take a look at the Nmap classes there, and I found 27 of them that are English and another 16 that are non-English, something like that. And they ranged in time presentation from 33 minutes. I'm going to give you more than 33 minutes to 9.5 hours. And
wow.
All of them claim to make you an expert by the end of their class. So I had to see what's in the 33-minute ones. Some of the longer ones aren't pure Nmap as well. They are. Sorry, I'm cutting you off, Scott. Go ahead.
No, I was chiming in. You might as well take the 33-minute one.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'm done. I'm an expert.
Yep.
Some of the longer ones aren't pure Nmap. They cover other utilities as well. So, but cool. Nmap is a large focus of them. So as I was researching this week, I discovered some online classes that I took a look at, some freebies, some how-tos in YouTube and things like that. And one of the things that I discovered in the way some educators present this is that Nmap commands can be categorized. And I thought the one that I'm about to show you was very interesting. Almost there. Click and share. I know, I'll zoom this up. So here's Nmap, and you can see this particular person who was creating a class said there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 categories of switch types: scan options, scan types, service and version detection, and then this miscellaneous one, other people break that up. So let me zoom that in a little bit more for you. It's a JPEG, so as you zoom it up, it gets fuzzier and fuzzier, but we can see here this scan options. Here I can scan for -P followed by a range of ports. I just want to see everything from port 22 through port, pick your favorite number, 99 or 65535. There's a double dash here, double dash scan flags. These are trying to force either Nmap to put particular values in the TCP header or to get particular values to come back from the recipient. So I'm not going through all this, just some critical ones. But again, we got scan options, these miscellaneous ones. This version number, this is part of fingerprinting, excuse me. Run this as a privileged case instead of having to run it with sudo. We got a couple timing ones in here. This one's interesting, -T4. Some Nmap avoider programs simply avoid by not responding to it within a certain amount of time. So we can say, look, I'll wait up to 300 seconds before I time out, and I'll keep probing you every 1¼ seconds. With T3, I can do multiple simultaneous scans of a host at the same time. I'll be scanning this port while this process is scanning that port. Output options, you can output the results as text on your screen, save them to 3 different kinds of files, send them to external recipients, web hosts, and things like that. We got OS detection. All right, you get the idea. You can read this. Yeah, I'm not gonna, I don't have the website where I found that one. Unshare. Sweet.
I just posted in the chat a link to Nmap courses currently on Udemy, and like a lot of other places in the U.S., they are having a Black Friday sale. Ends at midnight. So
yeah, I think it's ending today. So yeah, good day to do that. Good call.
Yeah. But I posted the link. So
okay. All right, let me show you what I'm doing with you today. So you can go and follow along if you get bored or want to do it later. Of course, you can always see it on the archive. Hope you're watching this on the archive now. If you are, send me a note. Send me an email. My email address is at the beginning, and I'll do it again at the end. That says, Dave, I'm watching this on stardate 3742.9. So I'll know it's still getting some views.
Cool.
Okay, I'm going to share a PDF. Click this, click this. That won't work. You got to bring the PDF to the forefront first, because I love Zoom.
Zoom loves you too, Dave.
I get letters from them. Some people would describe it as hate mail. Okay, if you go out online right now and just do a search with your favorite search engine for top Nmap commands, you're going to find 40 or 50 links of places and people that think, hey, these are the best ones you ought to know or use or have the most practical value. So I looked through a lot of them and I said, you know what, this will be a good one for presenting today. So linuxtechie.com, nmap-command-examples-in-linux. So I'm basically following along that website, and I'll explain some of their terminology that they use, and some of it is pretty straightforward and natural. So let's do this in the Kali box, because we like Kali. It's 33, Kali's over here, and because it's fast. So we did the very first one. If you just run Nmap followed by an IP address, the defaults kick in, and he does a fast scan of about 5 ports, 5 common ports, and or even 100 common ports, and it says, hey, I've only got 5 that I found here, and then based on my very fast scan, I didn't get responses from 995 of those. Now maybe we can add some switches and force it to be more aggressive. Let me show you a different one here. This one, I want to do a fast scan, but not just on a single host. How about on, I don't know, the first 10 hosts in my network. So in the 4th octet, I'll make a range. I could do 2 hosts. I want to see 2 hosts right now. I want to see 201, and then you can follow it with a space and list another one, 192.168.1.1. You can also have this read from a file that has a list of IP addresses. But I'm going to do this range thing here. I'm not sure what I have on the bottom end. I did a test of the entire, you know what? I did a test of the whole 254 range, and it doesn't take too long. So let's scan the heck out of everything here. I did it on Windows when I was doing this test, and it took Windows, I don't know, 45 seconds or so. So hopefully this will be much more quick, as I did that with ZenMap. Vamping for time. Vamp, vamp, vamp. Fine. I'll come up to head and we'll come back to this when I see that it's done.
All right.
And I'll talk about some of the other things. It's taking, oh, yeah, it's taking long. There it goes. It's done. You knew that would happen, didn't you?
I did.
I did. So the output by default is textual. So what I want to do here, I want to scroll up. So he's found, there was a summary at the end that says, I found 18 hosts. And we could look textually at each of these ones. Here's when we ran the command. Here's the first success. He found one at 192.168.1.1. Not surprising. That's my default router, right? And it's running DNS services, and it's running a web host on, a web server, so I can administer it on port 80 because it's in my house. I don't need it at 443. It's got a print server built into it. It's got one that emulates a Jet Direct. You get the idea. So it's quick, it's textual. Here's a one that he found running at 112. It's only got two services running. Got lots of services on those. Here's my laptop here. It's running WSD API. There's one running Black Ice and IceCap. All right. So kind of a neat thing to do. Back to notes for a second. And let's switch categories. Oh, we're going to do this over here. You will not see what I'm doing. Don't worry, I will show you. One of the things that you can do is force your host that's running Nmap to have a different subnet mask than it would normally do. So just for that one communication, if you've normally got a class C address and it's got a default subnet mask of WAC 24, 255.255.255.0, but you think that there's somebody that's on a site or subnet on your area that you're searching, you can do an Nmap 192.168 actual address of the host you're trying to find and a different subnet mask, WAC 23, WAC 25, whatever. So I'm not going to demo that because I don't have anything like that going on my machine. So our most fundamental is the one we've done so far. Nmap, no switches, excuse me, and a singular IP address or a range of IP addresses. Here's how I can do a range in another way. Clear screen. How about Nmap 1, 10, 112. So now instead of doing everything between 1 and 10 or 1 and 112, it should happen quick. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. So he found one at 1, 1 at 12. He didn't find the one at 10. I guess I don't have one at 1.10. Going back to my notes, seeing what else is there. I want to see if a particular port is running. I don't want to do an entire scan for every single possible port. So with that, I'm going to copy paste this so I don't have to type over my mistakes. Alice should be here to point it out. should work. There we go. So Nmap minus lowercase p followed by the port number. This is going to check both UDP ports and TCP ports. And follow that up with the IP address in question. Nmap. So that's all he does. I just want to know, quick down and dirty, is this port working? Does that thing have a working web server, one that responds? So useful, minus lowercase p. Now, if you want to go nuts, you can turn that command into something really powerful. First of all, you could list a series of different ports separated by commas. So I want to see if he's running port 80 and port 53 and SNMP 67 and 68. And nope, he actually checked for 67 and 68. Whatever I put in that list, he's going to check for. But he says I didn't get response from those. I did get a response on 53, so I'm running DNS services. Now here's one that we're not going to do. I'm not going to hit the enter key on anyways. Oh, heck, let's try it. Yeah, this will be fun. You can do a range in here. It's one of the things I don't like about Kali. You can't just hold down an arrow key and it buzzes by. You got to list with this. So let's see everything that this thing is running from port 22 through port 80. That was quick. So he's not running an SSH server. He's not running a telnet server. He's not running an FTP server, but he ran that whole range of port requests. That's where you can get really nuts. This is the one we're not going to hit enter key on. Show me every port from 1 through 65, 535, and do that for every computer on the 192.168.1.0 network address. We would be here forever. And you could even add some more switches and say, look, if you're not getting responses, wait it out. We might add a -v and get some version information. So you got a backspace over that. Now I can do it this way. Awesome. So we can do ranges of ports. We can do ranges of IP addresses. I don't want to do that one. If you add after Nmap -6, you can search for IPv6 addresses. Again, in ranges, in comma delimited versions, or as singularly listed items separated by commas. All right, let me do this one for you. I'm going to show you fingerprinting. -O. And we're going to see some interesting results here. And it depends on the kind of computer that you're doing this on. Stop this. There we go. So notice he's saying, I don't do fingerprinting unless you prove that you're somebody who's got authority to do this. The same thing happens if you try and do it in Raspberry Pi OS, and it won't run if you try to do it in a regular command line window in Windows. You've got to open the command line in administrative mode. So to do this, easy fix, we just precede it with sudo. Now, when you set up Nmap, there's a configuration file that you can use to define valid users of this program. So even if somebody's running sudo, if they're not a valid user, it would still fail. Oh, prove it, man. Okay. Password for Kali is still the default, Kali. So he found the operating system here. It's a version of Linux. It's an ASUS specific version of Linux because I've got an ASUS router. 1.1 is my router. And he's given me a hop distance. So I did performance detection. Let's try one. This is running Raspberry Pi OS. I'm calling, I'm doing. I'm having a tough time figuring this one out. Stand by, let me try something else. And there's more parameters that you can put after the O. I'm going to show you one. He says, I got a lot of information back, but it's not really in my database of understanding what this is. So I did a port scan. I got some of the usual ports. I picked up the MAC address, but I couldn't find an exact OS for what that thing was running. But I did get a lot of information that perhaps will help you research it. So I can add another parameter that might help. Standing by, getting my copy paste notes. There we go. We can say, you don't know exactly what this is, but I'd like you to give it your best guess. So I'm going to add this switch to it, minus OSScan - guess. And we'll have it call that guy out. I know it's 46, we're almost done. Whoops, forgot sudo. Patiently watching, vamping for time. I'm figuring 12 seconds. There we go. So I did an OS detection and hey, I got something here. By doing that best guess, he went into aggressive mode guesses. I think you're running some flavor of Linux 5. Got a 99% chance of that. Or maybe even Linux 2.6. It doesn't know what kind of computer, and different versions of Debian have broadly different gross numbers to them. But that helps. And then there's even one more. We can proceed it with a minus lowercase v, which means do this even more aggressively. Try a whole bunch of other different techniques. So pretty cool. Just a couple more here. I hear Scott's thunder.
Trash day.
So we can take this output and we can save it to a file instead of sending it to a screen. So I'm going to do the same command that I did, and I'm going to generate a file. Output, you can call it anything you want. Output scan .text. I'd probably put dates and what I was searching for in the title here in the real world. And so we wait that out to 15 seconds or so. Now there's a bunch of switches in the output that will generate different kinds of output: XML, DOC, comma delimited files, XLS files. So there it is. If I do an ls of outstar, there's the file, and I can look at it with our old friend, the cat command, cat output scan .text. And since it's a file right now, I can send this to somebody. I can print it. I can do all kinds of things with it. I can edit it and make up terrible lies about what I found. All right, so that's the top 20 list from this particular site, plus a few of my own. Let me show you one more quickie cool thing. I want to show you ZenMap with Windows.
Cool.
This is just a little slice of heaven. I got to launch it without you. Sorry. Zen, there it is. I don't have it running already, right? No, okay. All right, it's running. Let me share it. Okay, so here's what ZenMap looks like when you first bring it up. And you see it's got a default set of switches. He says, when you hit the big scan button over here, I'm going to run Nmap minus T4, cap T, minus cap A, minus V, that's aggressive. So we got to start by providing it with some basic information like 192, 168, 1.201. And I don't want to do an intense scan because we're going to be here all day. So I will tell it to do a quick scan. Now watch over here at what happens. These are the intense switches, minus T4, minus A, minus V. So when I change that to a quick scan, he's going to get rid of the minus V. Still does a T4 and a minus F. That's our fast scan. So, okay, here we got a host. We've got a type of switches that we're going to use. We see what this would do in the command prompt. And so we give it a run. See how long it takes. 4.5 seconds, about halfway between the command line on a Raspberry and Nmap on Kali. And we've seen these results before. So let me show you a different one. I'm going to do a full network scan, .1 through .250. Looks like I've done that one before. It'll be a quick scan. Come on, get out of there. Now, this is a really powerful and sophisticated program. This alone takes a couple of days to a week to learn well, and you still won't have learned all of its minor idiosyncrasies, but I'm going to show you the two biggest, awesomest ones when this finishes, hopefully in 45 seconds. I'm not going to quit out of it and go back in and say, oh, look how long it takes. We'll just suffer for a minute. It's 52. It'll be less than a minute. I'm so torn. I want to.
Andre suggested
it's done, and I know what I want to do.
Yeah, Andre suggested that since Nmap couldn't pick up the OS, you should guess like Windows XP Service Pack 2.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop sharing it for a minute. When it's done, I'll come back. We'll just talk for a minute and read some questions. I finished. Ah! I knew it would do that.
There haven't been questions. People have just been paying attention. So
great. Well, that'll teach them.
Except for the couple of questions that I went live with during the.
Okay, so here's the results. Here's all of the hosts that it found. Some of them have NetBIOS names. And if I highlight a particular one and double click it, not much happens here because I got to do that in another menu. Here's all of the services that is found collectively on that scan. That's kind of cool. And here I got to scroll down through things and find them, but then we do the magic. So let's go over to the topology tab. This is what it found. And let me zoom up on that. I'm using the plus command here. Is plus a command?
It is today, Dave.
Okay, and then we'll use the controls here. Do a little zoom action. All right, let's find our friend 201 here. There it is. So when I click it, it becomes the center of the universe, or almost the center. And what we're seeing topologically speaking is how far away from my host things are. Everything is direct connected, so we're all on a switch. But you can do this across routers. And that's something I wanted to point out. I'm not going to get around to that demo, but it's really easy. If you try to do fingerprinting, two things happen. We already saw one. You got to have administrative privileges. Number two, if you do it more than 5 hops away, it won't work. So they don't want you just casting about trying to find out everything about some host in Thailand. Oops. And I double clicked something that you didn't get to see. All right, so I did a right click on there. You might be able to see this, but when I did a right click, a second menu opened up. So I'm going to close this and show you what opened on that. Okay, so there's a window that opened when I right click on it. And here's where I can see, again, graphically, all of the, there's no trace route because it was a direct connect. I'm on the same switch as it. But you can see graphically instead of textually, or in addition to textually, what's going on. So that's Nmap in a very tiny little nutshell, and our friend ZenMap. And I encourage you to experiment with this. Use the searchers out there, find some classes on it. There's a lot of beef in there.
It's a powerful tool.
It is.
And one that certainly in the security field we use and rely heavily on. So obviously well beyond A+, and mainly beyond Net Plus 2. But you know, if you're taking the next step up into security or cyber analysis, you will need Nmap. And
right. So people ask all the time in Mike's class, I want to get into security. I want to be a pen tester. Well, this is one of this probably the second easiest utility that you're ever going to use, and they get more sophisticated and more powerful as you go on down the road. So start with simple IP address sniffers like Angry IP Scanner and Advanced IP Scanner. Then be looking into Wireshark. We've done a lot of Wireshark stuff here. And then Nmap is the first vulnerability tool that we start to use. He actually reaches out, grabs hold of the machine and says, what are you doing? What can I get into? What can't I get into? All right, final questions if anybody's got any. I'm going to throw up, there's more to that sentence, right? Yes.
There is. Nice try, no cigar gets the final question, I think.
Okay.
At 3:50.
Read it out, I'm putting something up.
He says, hi guys, I just scanned my router and TCP ports 139 and 445 are unexpectedly open. I'm guessing these are only open on the LAN side and not the WAN side. Any vulnerability issues?
No, anything on the LAN side, you're not vulnerable unless you're doing port forwarding. You should certainly expect 139, 137, and 139 because that's NetBIOS. That's how it's registering its name to all of your other devices. What was the other port, Scott?
445, SMB.
Yeah, right. Yes. So, right. Built into all modern routers is an option to turn it into an SMB server. You can enable that feature in your router, plug in a flash drive, and that becomes a central file storage and distribution and upload down location for everybody else. It turns up in your computers when you do network searches. So most definitely. Okay. A reminder, if you want to contact Scott or I, Dave R at TotalSem.com, Scott J at TotalSem.com. So we didn't get your questions today. Throw them up. You got a question for Mike? What a surprise. Michael M at TotalSem.com. Send it to any of us. We all roundtable it and talk about it with each other and then respond either by email or in one of these forums.
So I posted the unofficial Total Seminars channel Discord link. Feel free to join us afterwards. We get a little more casual. We might even lose our Zoom shirts. I don't know, but
most definitely for me. I'd take 5 minutes and get into something a little more comfortable.
There you go.
This, and then in 5 minutes, I'll join up. Scott will join up after they berate him mercilessly at his meeting and he walks his leaky dog.
Right. So this is true.
Yep. All right, we got another 30 seconds. Let's see what it's up. What else, if anything, is going on here. You're very welcome, Nada D, and everybody else. Thank you all for joining us on what is probably a holiday for those of you in the U.S.
One last pun.
Please.
Hello it. Why can't this night go on forever? Yes, no, thank you all very much for participating and playing in our live stream. I mean, this is great.
Yeah,
We
a
do
little
it
sandbox.
for you because we enjoy it and we like teaching. And, we miss being able to hang out with other techs and students. So
My last thing, just before everybody goes, next week's show, I did plan one out in advance for a change. We're going to do how to boot a Raspberry Pi from something other than the micro SD card. So from something external like a flash drive or a USB SSD or a USB hard drive, whatever. That's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of easy. And micro SD cards have a much lower life cycle than those other external devices. So it's really worthwhile to boot off of and use those ones. So with that, you guys all have a good rest of the holiday weekend or regular weekend, if that's what you're up to. Mike's show is regularly scheduled for Monday. That's okay, we're bailing on it, Michael. So thank you for that. And everybody, have a good weekend. Good night.
good night. The awkward
Yep.
stare.
And I'll leave this run for 5 minutes while I